Why do we make war movies? Wars are the biggest historical events. They're showcases of the depths that humanity can sink to, the things we'll do to each other. So when it comes to war movies, why would we want to recreate and relive these horrific times in human history, these scarring, brutal, irreversible parts of our past? The reality of war is not something one would enjoy reliving for entertainment. So how have humans historically presented the most damaging and horrible human-caused events in film? How do you present these violent, terrifying conflicts in an entertaining way? And what can we learn from war films so far? But before we talk about 1917's manipulation of war genre tropes, we need to talk about war genre tropes in the first place. Classic war movies follow a relatively routine structure. They're often black and white. You have the good guys and you have the bad guys. The good guys are the ones you root for, the witty ones, the brave ones, the ones that are confident in battle and always come through to win it in the end. The enemies are often relegated to cardboard cutouts, someone to shoot, someone to fight, a force to be stopped, but no real depth. The good guys fight the bad guys, you get some explosions and action scenes, things look bad but they win the day in the end and boom, victory. Good has prevailed against evil. Head on home and don't think too much about the true horrors of war, Junior. Hope you had fun. Often war films glamorize the truth of war and give you a charismatic leading man to cheer for.
17 escape attempts.
18, sir.
Tunnelman, engineer.
Flyer.
I suppose what's called in the American Army a hotshot pilot.
I haven't seen Berlin yet, from the ground or from the air, and I plan on doing both before the war's over.
Are all American officers so ill-mannered?
About 99%.
Common character tropes include the badass all-American hero, the grizzled, aged veteran, the young, innocent soldier, and the family member to fight for to provide the emotional connection for the audience, like a wife or a child. Although, in more recent years, war movies have been focusing less on romanticizing these conflicts and more on the true toll they have on the lives of those involved. Some choose graphic but effective battle scenes showcasing the true horrors of war, and others focus more on the general hopelessness of life in war for the young people who had to fight in it. In Dunkirk, for example, the audience is given little to no information about its characters, further communicating the fact that the ones we follow in the film are only a couple of the hundreds of thousands of faceless men stuck on that beach, waiting helplessly for death or rescue to come. But let's get to the point. How does 1917 use these established tropes?
Blake,
Sorry, Sarge.
pick a man. Bring your kit.
Yes, Sarge.
1917 is a wonderful example of utilizing and manipulating well-known genre elements to subvert the audience's expectations to a shocking effect. Throughout the first half of the film, we become acquainted with the two soldiers that serve as our protagonists. The crux of the film is that two men have been assigned a mission to deliver a direct order, to call off an attack that will send thousands of men directly into a guaranteed slaughter. The two men, Blake and Schofield, are chosen for the job because one of the men being sent into the doomed attack is Blake's older brother. They're forced to fight the clock on a dangerous mission through no man's land, constantly encountering horrific scenarios to overcome. When casting the two protagonists, it's important to note that they chose two completely new, unknown actors. This decision was made so that the audience would not recognize them as actors, and they would appear more as two of the thousands of young men sent off to fight for their country. To the general public, these men are strangers who we get to know and follow on their treacherous journey. To supplement this, the decision was made to cast very well-known actors to play higher-ranked officials. Colin Firth plays the superior officer that sends the protagonists on their mission, and Benedict Cumberbatch appears at the end as the colonel in charge of calling off the attack. The audience recognizes these actors, and therefore is more likely to unconsciously accept their authoritative roles in the story.
There is only one way this war ends. Last man standing. Have someone see to your wounds. Fuck off, Lance Corporal.
As the two make their way across the war-torn landscape, we learn more about Blake, his family back at home, stories about his childhood, the things he misses. In contrast, we get little about the other man, Schofield. As a result, the audience immediately becomes attached to Blake. There's an emotional connection formed. His mission to save his brother and his drive to keep them both moving forms the emotional core of the movie.
If we're not clever about this, no one will get to your brother. I will. We just need to think about it. There's nothing to think about. It's my big brother.
So the audience is absolutely stricken when, barely halfway through the film, Blake is stabbed trying to help an injured enemy soldier and bleeds out in Schofield's arms.
Oh God, no. Oh God, no. Jeez. Jesus, no. Oh, jeez. Am I dying? Yes. Yes, I think you are.
The audience watches in abject horror as Blake dies, begging Schofield to write to his mother to tell his family he didn't die afraid, and then finally he asks Schofield to talk to him, to reassure him that he knows the way to his brother to deliver the message. This is the moment the film's focus shifts to Schofield as he begins reciting the directions to the dying Blake as a last comfort to him. And then Blake dies. There's actually a fascinating decision taken right at the moment he stops breathing. The quiet, somber music that had been undercutting the scene stops, and all that's left is the sound of the wind blowing, the fire burning, and Schofield's labored breathing as he holds his friend's bloodied hand.
Talk to me. Tell me you know the way. I know the way. I'm going to head southeast until I hit a coast. I'll pass through the town and out to the east, all the way to Quasil Wood. It'll be dark by then. That won't bother me. I'll find the second. I'll give them the message. And then I'll find your brother. Just like you. A little older.
It's horrible. It's heartbreaking. Suddenly, the emotional center of the movie has shifted, and audiences are left devastated. Under the comments of a YouTube video of the scene, many people have expressed the effect that the shocking reversal had on them. I genuinely was very surprised about what we had thought to be the protagonist dying so early in the movie. This shows how unexpected war can be. This movie tricked me. I thought he was going to be the main character, and I fully expected him to live to the end. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I guess that's what it's like when your friend dies in combat. This movie made me miss a character who had barely 30 minutes of screen time. That's insane. I genuinely missed Blake and wanted to see him again by the end of the movie. I was in tears thinking about him. He deserved so much better. They all did. I had a military career that spanned 30 years and saw 2 wars. What I learned was that war is just a meat grinder for the young. I didn't want my son to serve because I am haunted by all the young men I saw die who would never be held again. My precious son ended up serving and was lost one faithful day in a battle far away. Now he has become but a lonely stone in a field. I lost everything and my mind when he parted this world. Now I spend my days whispering into the wind, "I love you, my boy," hoping it is blown to wherever souls are taken. Now I sit in a lonely field by a stone, waiting for my day to come. When it comes, I will rush to you, my beautiful boy, and hold you for eternity. The creators of 1917 knew what the audience expected. They knew the emotional connection they would have created with the character, and they knew the war film trope of the naive, hopeful young soldier. They took the stereotypical cheerful, engaging, likable soldier, and they made audiences watch as he bled out and died, subverting every expectation for the movie and laying bare a horrible truth. That's what war is. No one picks and chooses who dies. Bright, kind, hopeful young people go off to war and die senselessly. And 1917 showcases this without bombastic characters or perfect action heroes. The characters are real people, normal people. They have lives outside of the battles they're forced to fight, lives that are taken away. 1917 is a perfect example of the growing shift in the war genre away from romanticizing and glamorizing the stories of the people who fought in these wars, and more towards helping generations years down the line truly understand the devastation these conflicts caused. We need to remember these stories, and we need to make sure that they never happen again. Okay, we're not actually done yet. Sorry about that. See, I still need to talk about... But before all that, I'm gonna test you. I'll show you 2 different movie clips on screen, and I want you to immediately, just by color composition and lighting, tell which scene has a heavier focus on comedy. Ready? Okay, here we go.
How may we serve you, gentlemen? Ah, Inspector Henkel.
By order of the Commissioner of Police, Subroka Province, I hereby place you under arrest for the murder of Madame Celine Villeneuve de Goffin-Taxis.
I knew there was something fishy. We never got the cause of death. She's been murdered. And you think I did it. Hey! Stop!
Pretty easy, right? It's ingrained in our cinematic language by now that lighter tone means brighter colors. So of course, almost every war movie is painted with washed out shades. Because of the nature of wars, the movies that depict them are not colorful or bright. Almost all war movies have a faded, dull palette, emphasizing the brown of mud in the trenches, the gray and black of weapons and wire, the red of blood. In 1917, the settings traversed are trenches, muddy battlefields, and destroyed villages, all color-corrected to appear duller, emphasizing the devastation of the landscape. These colors serve to emphasize the mood and tones of these tense war films, and make bright colors stand out more when implemented. But if any of you knew anything about 1917 before this, it probably would have been its technological achievements. 1917 won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography. Cinematographer Richard Deakins used painstaking efforts to make sure the entire movie plays out with no noticeable cuts. Everything has been seamlessly cut together into appearing as one single take. This cinematography serves to further engage the audience and wrap them up in the story. You can see Deakins mention this idea in interviews everywhere. Because of the nature of a one-take movie, the audience sees every step along the journey that the protagonists take. Every moment in a trench, every heart-stopping near miss, every single breath we endure with them. Often in war movies you see intense shaky cam adding to the hectic atmosphere of the battlefield, with quick, frantic cuts. But here, we see everything play out without pause. There is no break from the tension of this movie until it ends. The effect is astounding. In moments of extreme terror, the audience is stuck between wanting to look away and being unable to. Another absolutely fantastic piece of cinematography relates to the lighting in 1917. For most scenes, the outdoor setting of the film provided no way to manipulate the lighting. But for one specific scene, cinematographer, editor, and director all worked in perfect unison to create an absolutely stunning effect. Schofield, attempting to finish the journey through no man's land, is rendered unconscious in a fight with an enemy sniper. He awakens to see that hours have passed and he's lost precious time. Night has fallen, and while normally it would provide cover, it now gives unease. Suddenly, a bright white light fills the sky, a flare sent up by the enemy. This is another example of the fascinating ways that the filmmakers used cinematic language to manipulate the viewer's perception of events. To make sure that the flares would stay in the sky long enough, they built detailed models to map out the path they wanted the flares to take through the sky, calculating the time they spent in the air to perfectly light the set the way they wanted to.
What was key was the way the light fell through the windows to create the shadow and the layers of light.
It almost feels like the ground beneath his feet is moving because the light is moving. There's something nightmarish about it and strange.
The effect is disorienting. As you heard in the video, for the only light source in the scene to be moving creates the feeling that the whole world is almost shifting under the protagonist's feet. Where else have we seen this? A single light source moving erratically around to create a disorienting effect. Years later, 1917 uses these established cinematic techniques to replicate Psycho's basement tenfold. 1917 actually breaks the norm for war movies in attempting scenes with such complicated lighting. I would show the flare scene in full because it's a legitimately breathtaking scene, but at that point I think Mr. Limerick would be legally obligated to just turn off the video and move on. I hope I've properly illustrated the way that 1917 creatively uses these established war tropes and cinematic techniques to expand and reinvent the war film. For all these efforts, 1917 ended up winning the Academy Award for Best Cinematography, as well as sound mixing and visual effects. It also won the Golden Globe Award for Best Director and Best Motion Picture. I love this movie. I absolutely adore it. But if you asked any one of my friends, they would confirm for you that war movies are by no means my flavor. But 1917 transcends its genre. It's just an incredible piece of art. It's sad but not hopeless. It's horrific but in no way gory or brutal. What so many war movies forget, and what so many more refuse to let you forget, is that these things really happened. These aren't faraway space adventures or fantastical journeys. It's engaging, yes, but it's harrowing and painful. It isn't an enjoyable movie experience, but that doesn't make it any less important. We need to see these things, we need to remember these things, and we need to cry for these things, and for all the horrible things that we've done to each other, and then we need to stand up and do something about it. Good film moves you. Good theater can make you uncomfortable. But nothing changes in your comfort zone. We need to see these awful things happening and say never again and say not now, and not in any of the other forms it comes in. This is where conflict leads, loss of innocent life. We need to keep telling these stories, old and new, so we can learn from them and never ever let them happen again. So yeah, I loved 1917, and I think it's a wonderful war movie, but it was really sad, and I'm never watching another war movie ever again.